Build the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmya sanputo 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lending life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitofo, welcome back. This is Sutra lecture number 126. Yes, number 126. Okay, let me get today's slides out. So I have slides for today, but today I had a conversation with Madalena, and she said people really like to do Q&A. In case you don't know who Madalena is, she's kind of like the Tathagata, the big sister of all, almost all of Shufu's disciples. She's the one partly responsible or fully responsible for Shufu going to the US. She and her sister Stella. So that's why I thought maybe today we can open with Q&A. If there's anyone who has any questions, and we do. So far, we actually have 3 questions lined up. Let me see. No, 1, 2, yeah, 4 questions. The questions are: what is the best method to go to the Pure Land? Number 2, a related question is: when we go to the Pure Land, do we have to come back to teach living beings, or rather, should we have that mindset in order to get to the Pure Land? Number 3, if we want to be reborn during the time when the future Buddha, Maitreya Buddha, comes, he's now Maitreya Bodhisattva, and when he comes and we want to be reborn during the time of the Buddha, how do we do that? Question number 4 is Ron is asking about reciting the Buddha's name. What is the attitude that one should have? And then I think, Ron, you still had a second component to the question, right? You said if after you participate and you come out, you're not exactly sure what to feel. Was that right?
Yes, I mean, it's not just the Buddha's name; it could be the Bodhisattva's names too.
Hmm.
Um, when they have these Dharma assemblies, I enjoy. I mean, going to the assemblies and seeing everybody there, but I'm not quite sure if I got the right attitude when I go to those assemblies.
Okay, so what is the right attitude to have, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Who else has questions? It can be any question.
Another one.
Sorry, Ron.
I might ask another one, and that is, could you explain to us, or tell us, like, why should we request dharma? What is the benefit, and what is the retribution? I mean, what's the reward for doing that?
Ron, I covered that before. The benefit of requesting the Dharma, your wisdom increases.
It's not just for me; it's for other people here.
Oh, okay. All right. What is the benefit? Okay. All right. Thanks, Ron. Okay. Who else has any questions? It can be any question related to Buddhism. In the past, we have questions like, can we eat eggs? Can I wear my recitation beads into the toilet? It can be any question, as long as you have thought about it and you're not sure if you have an answer, or if the answer that you have is correct. This is why we are all here. Anyone? Or you can type it in, okay? If you don't want to ask, you can type into the chat box. Okay, let's start with the questions. In the case of Ron's question, the last one, I actually have this sutra, but let me get it right now. Okay, hold on, just give me a second. It's called Khemaka Sutta, and it's a sutra about people asking questions. All right, so SN 22.89. Okay, so the number of the sutra is SN 22.89, is the collection of sutras that are attributed to senior disciples of the Buddha. Okay, I found it. All right, come, let me share, put it on the screen. Oh, why can't I? Okay, I think I have to stop share. Okay, let me see. Let me stop my PowerPoint. Oh, no, I don't need to. Okay, great. Okay, so if you look on your screen, this is called the Khemaka Sutta, by translation by Bhikkhu Sujato, and is under the link discourses or Samyutta Nikaya number 22.89, in case you want to find it for yourself. Okay. So it's about a monk, okay, the mendicant. I won't go through the whole sutta because it's not very long. Maybe it's like 3-4 pages, but basically Khemaka is not doing well. So someone, his name is Venerable Dasaka. Venerable Dasaka has been sent to inquire after the health of the Venerable Khemaka. So he goes to Venerable Khemaka. He says, Venerable Khemaka, the seniors hope you're keeping well. They hope you're all right. They hope that your pain is fading, not growing, that its fading is evident, not its growing. So this is how the monks treat each other. And then the reply is, no, he's not feeling well. It's actually getting worse. So then Venerable Dasaka goes back to report to the seniors. And then the seniors then ask, they want to know how is, okay, then the seniors want to know the level of Reverend Khemaka's cultivation. So he says, they ask him, you say, please, Reverend Dasaka, go to the mendicant Khemaka and say to him, Reverend Khemaka, the seniors say that these 5 grasping aggregates have been taught by the Buddha. That is, aggregates means the skandhas. The grasping aggregates of form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness. Do you regard anything among these 5 grasping aggregates as self or as belonging to self? Okay, so they would ask him that question. That's a very valid question to ask, because the whole reason of you become a monk to end birth and death is to illuminate the 5 skandhas. If you ever recited the Heart Sutra, the Heart of Prajnaparamita Sutra, it says, when Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara illuminated the 5 skandhas, he crossed beyond all suffering and difficulty, and he left this distorted dream thinking behind. I hope I recited that correctly from memory. So that's the question that the monks are asking Reverend Khemaka. So this poor Reverend Dasaka keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, he goes back and forth. Why? Because Reverend Khemaka gives the answer. This is actually what he said. Hold on. Maybe let me reduce this by 1 size. Okay. There you go. Says Reverend Khemaka, he doesn't get fed up, but he says, enough, Reverend Dasaka, what's the point in running back and forth? Bring my staff, his walking stick. I'll go to see the senior mendicants myself. Okay, to explain properly. Okay, explain what? Okay, he talks about, he talks about the scent belonging to a flower. Because you don't have to read, I'll just explain. Because what he's trying to explain, he says, it's not that he associates the 5 skandhas with the self anymore. He doesn't see the 5 skandhas as a self. What are the 5 skandhas? The 5 skandhas makes us think, who we think we are is represented by the 5 skandhas. It is made up of the form, which is our body, including our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and plus the body that makes 6. And our skandhas are basically how we interact with the world. What is the world? It is our skandhas. Because we don't interact with the world directly, but we interact with the world through how the skandhas filter the world to us. In other words, for example, someone who is blind, okay, if their form skandha is deficient and they don't have the eye faculty, or they cannot see things, so they interact with the world very differently from how people with sight interact. Someone who's deaf will interact with the world very differently. And then there are some people who they have hyper color. There's a term for it. They see a lot more colors than regular people can see. So they interact with the world differently. The world appears different to them. It's not just people, but say if you are born as an animal, like dogs, their sense of smell lets them see the world very, very differently from us. Birds see the world differently from us. Okay, and if you want to take that step further, Shufu says that, water. Okay, water to humans is, if you are a deva in the heavens, you see water as vajra, is a solid substance. But if you're a hungry ghost, water appears as fire. So their skandhas determine what the world is to them. Okay, all right. So he explains to the monks how at his level, he already does not associate the five skandhas as the self, but he still has a sense of self. This is very hard to explain. It has to be experienced, and it only makes sense if you have um, either achieved the level of cultivation practice, or sometimes momentarily in your meditation, you can experience this kind of state. All right. So in the end, as he's explaining to the monks, this last paragraph, which is the whole point of me sharing, says, and while this discourse was being spoken, so while Venerable Khemaka was explaining himself, the minds of 60 senior mendicants and of Venerable Khemaka were freed from defilements by not grasping. So in other words, Venerable Khemaka, by giving a Dhamma talk, taught himself to become an Arhat, which is pretty amazing. And not just himself, but the senior monastics who asked him the question, those who were not Arhats yet, 60 of them became Arhats. So that's one perspective on requesting the Dharma, Ron. Okay, when you request the Dharma, this might happen, maybe. Okay, so I thought this was an interesting sutra to share. Other benefits of requesting the Dharma, Ron, is that your wisdom increases. And if you are requesting not just for yourself, but on behalf of people, then you are following in the tradition of the great disciples and the bodhisattvas, because most of the questions asked in the suttas and the sutras all come from a place of wanting to benefit other people. Okay. Another reason why the sutra is requested is because we do not use the Dharma to preach, to convert people. We do not, if people don't ask, for example, like monastics, if people don't ask us questions about the Dharma, and if they're not sincere, meaning if they're asking to argue or to prove a point or to show they're smarter, we don't respond, because there's no point in speaking the Dharma under those circumstances. So since the time of the Buddha, it has been a tradition that the Dharma is only spoken when it is requested, and it is requested 3 times. They ask 3 times to show, in other words, to show sincerity. So in the sutras, you have Venerable Ananda asking the Buddha questions, or other people asking the Buddha questions, like in the sutra I shared last week about the person who believed that by being a warrior, he would be reborn in heaven. And he had to ask the Buddha 3 times, and the Buddha would reject or remain silent until it is asked 3 times. So the hope, when the Buddha got enlightened under the Bodhi tree, the first turning of the Dharma wheel came as a result of Lord Shakra and Lord Brahma requesting the Buddha to turn the Dharma wheel. And that's how the Dharma began. Okay, Ron? So since then until now, there's always been a request for Dharma before a lecture. And for example, like our whole series of classes that we've been having came as a result of someone requesting me to start. Yeah, it wasn't me waking up one day, having nothing better to do and saying, oh, I'm going to start this class. No, it came from a request. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
All
sure.
right. Yes, Ron.
So the reason that I sometimes ask again is that, you know what, the first time I hear it, it's like, oh, okay, you get benefits, and that's all I remember. But as you explain it again, like this time, it I get some more better reasons, so that's why I ask, and that's why I ask for other people too.
That's good, Ron. Yeah, keep on asking. Yeah, you can ask repeat questions. It's fine. Okay, we have another question, which is Randy's question on why we cannot owe money if one is to become a monk. So there are certain things that prevents one from becoming a monk. Okay, if you want to become a monk or nun, you can't. Certain things about the body. Your body has to be complete. You can't be a cripple, for example. I don't have the full details, but the principle is kind of like that. And then you cannot be married. You have to be divorced. Preferably, you have taken care of any responsibilities that you are due to you. And if you are of, let me see, if you also need the permission of your parents. But I'm not sure about the minute details. Say if you are 50 or 60 years old, I'm not sure of the details then. But it's always good to, basically it's about asking, it's about making sure that if you have any people who are dependent on you, that they are taken care of. For example, like the sixth patriarch. The sixth patriarch heard a line of the sutra, became enlightened, but at the time was very poor and he was taking care of his mother. And the first thing that came to his mind was he could not leave his mother by herself, not taken care of. So in the sutras, it is mentioned due to a past karmic affinity, someone gave him a sum of money so that his mother could be taken care of and then he could pursue the Dharma. So that's the sixth patriarchs. Then he became the sixth patriarch. That's his situation. So in the case of if we owe people money, okay, so at the time of leaving home, you may be a certain kind of person. You may say, oh, I don't care. I owe someone money or people depend on me. I don't care. Because after all, the Dharma is, everything is empty because they don't understand what emptiness really means. So they have a distorted thinking and they leave home. But what happens is when you leave home and if you study the Dharma properly and you apply yourself well and you go deeper in your meditation and in yourself, you realize, or you may come to the point where your past unfinished business becomes an obstacle to your practice. They hold you back. Your mind cannot get over it because as a person, you have progressed to realize that, oh, you actually made a mistake. Or you realize that you have abandoned certain people and you just can't get over the guilt or the mistake that you have made. Why? Because you didn't start your monastic journey on a clean slate. Clean slate means when we take the precepts, we do repentance to atone for all the things that we have done before so that we can begin new, like on a clean sheet of paper. Because if you have all kinds of things written on a sheet of paper, it's very hard to record new notes. Okay, so that's one reason why you shouldn't owe money if you want to become a monk, because sooner or later you'll come to regret. You realize that you have a karmic debt to pay, and that if you do your job well as a monastic, you will come to realize that unfinished business will come back to haunt you. So it's better to maybe take 2 steps back, take care of your business, and then when you finally move forward, it's done properly so you don't jeopardize your own future. Okay, all right. Okay, now let's go to the Pure Land question. Okay, wait, at this moment, does any of these questions or explanation bring forth any new questions? Don't be shy. I like questions because it makes the Dharma come alive. It makes the Dharma relevant. And you all asking questions is the only way I can make sure I know what I'm talking about too. All right. Okay. Now, best method to go to the Pure Land. Okay. best method to go to the Pure Land, on the surface, is reciting the Buddha's name. Okay, Shufu says that, and in the Shurangama Sutra, it says that the pure Shurangama Sutra doesn't say it directly, but it talks about Guanin's method of returning the hearing within. Shufu says that reciting the Buddha's name is the easiest method to get to the Pure Land, and the most suitable method for living beings or humans in the Saha world at this particular time. Why? Because anyone can do it. Anyone can sit down, find a quiet place, and recite the Buddha's name. The difficult part about reciting the Buddha's name is to give yourself the opportunity, okay, which means to believe in yourself, to give yourself the opportunity, whether you're sick, whether you're healthy, whether you're happy, whether you're sad, crying, laughing, to try to use the Buddha's name to cut through all these states that you're undergoing, and to, to develop concentration. And every time that you are reciting the Buddha's name and you have a thought that comes up. So normally, if we are not reciting the Buddha's name, if we're just doing normal things, we see something, we see an apple, we might, like now when I on the spur of the moment speak about an apple, first thing that comes to my mind is apple pie. Okay, and then if you have nothing to hold your mind down, then the mind starts wondering, oh, apple pie, and I'm just telling you what's going on in my mind, and my memory is that of eating apple pie with ice cream and getting humiliated because I went to my friend's house and they're having a party and they were serving apple pie with ice cream. And then I said, I don't want any ice cream. I just want the apple pie. And then I said, oh, the apple pie is not sweet. And then they laughed at me like I was very stupid. They said, that's what the ice cream is for. You're supposed to eat ice cream with apple pie. And it was the first time in my life that I had heard of that people make apple pie that is not sweet, and you're supposed to eat it with ice cream. So that's what happens to the monkey mind. Okay, if you don't have something to tie the monkey down, the monkey mind will just run here, run there, depending on your karmic seeds, and depending on how you feel. Okay, your monkey mind can make you depressed. Your monkey mind can make you happy. Your monkey mind can make you jealous. Can do all kinds of things. So when we recite the Buddha's name, and say if you get upset and you recite the Buddha's name, then every thought that comes up and you replace it with the Buddha's name, you are purifying yourself. Why? Because you're not perpetuating new karmic seeds based on that thought, that pattern of thought. So at the very least, not only are you planting good karmic seeds with everything that the Pure Land represents and everything that Amitabha Buddha represents, at the very least, you are also not creating further karmic seeds that bring you back to rebirth in the Saha world. Okay, so there's a lot of good things with just reciting the Buddha's name. Then a slightly more advanced practice, okay, is to purify yourself. What does that mean? Okay, we talk about the Pure Land, okay, and sometimes it is easy to think that, oh, just recite the Buddha's name and you can get to the Pure Land. But if you go to, to think about the Pure Land like this, if the Pure Land is full of people who still have jealousy, full of people who will steal things, full of people who will gossip, would you want to go to that kind of so-called Pure Land? That won't be a Pure Land anymore because the people there are not pure, right? So the allure of the Pure Land is that everyone there, their behavior is pure, their thoughts are pure. And so it is, number one, it's not easy to be reborn in the Pure Land, but there are different grades of being born in the Pure Land, like the different lotus flowers. I'm not quite sure how the whole mechanism works because I haven't explored that part yet. But the more advanced method of Pure Land practice is like described in the Sixth Petrarch Sutra, where the Sixth Petrarch explains that the Pure Land practice is it's not just reciting the Buddha's name, but it's all about purifying your thoughts. So if you have a thought of anger, it tells you that, oh, I haven't developed enough loving kindness, either for a particular person or for yourself. And so you purify yourself in that way. When someone is sick and you don't care, or sometimes you wish for someone to fall sick, then you realize, oh, what's wrong with me? Oh, I don't have enough compassion. And then from the sutras, you learn, oh, I don't have enough compassion. Why? Because I don't have enough loving kindness. And from loving kindness, I have to care for people. So you look at your own shortcomings or your own unwholesome habits, and then you try to transform them. Or you recite the Buddha's name while being mindful of the qualities of the Buddha. You want to be like Amitabha Buddha, for example. And that's how you purify yourself. So that's a slightly more advanced practice of the Pure Land. Then a slightly higher level is you purify yourself through meditation, which is you recite the Buddha's name until you can go deeper and deeper in your mind. And then the ultimate would be you overcome the 5 skandhas, for example. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be, momentary levels of concentration. So all those get you to the Pure Land. Okay, that's why I want to start a discussion class where everyone can sit, read the text, and then we talk about what the text really means to get to the Pure Land. All right, that's for the future. Okay, the other question about the Pure Land is, must we want to come back to safe living beings in order to get to the Pure Land? Yes and no. Why yes is and why no? Okay, yes, because when we practice not for ourselves, when we practice for the people that we care for, which is Mahayana Buddhism, it gives us the added strength or the motivation or the energy to practice well. Because if we practice just for ourselves, if we are selfish in our nature, if we feel like it, we do it. If we don't feel like it, we don't do it. But if we know that there are people depending on us, it helps us in being sincere. So if we are very serious about helping other people, it is very, very helpful to form the foundation of a Pure Land practice. Okay, but not everyone is able to do that. So for those of you who find it difficult to motivate yourself, or you don't quite understand, like, what does it mean if to go to the Pure Land means I have to come back and save living beings? When the time comes, okay, then you will understand. For example, when you go to the Pure Land, when you go to the Pure Land, that's what you're learning what to do. Okay, so don't worry about it too much. If you can develop it, I would strongly suggest thinking about it and developing those thoughts, those questions on why you don't feel that way. Okay, as long as you think about it, it's fine, rather than not think about it at all. Okay, but what happens is that you get to the Pure Land, and that's where you begin to learn about how to come back to safe living beings. Basically, once you become a bodhisattva, then you can do that. So don't worry too much about it, like what does it mean and all that. Basically, you go to the Pure Land to learn how to do it, so it will become clear. But as long as you have the intention, the idea, going to the Pure Land to become a bodhisattva, and then as a bodhisattva, I can come back and save living beings. It's kind of like, if I were to put it, is like if you are talking to, say, a 10-year-old student, and he says he wants to become a doctor, and he's worried because he says, but when you become a doctor, you have to study for 7 years, right? Or 8 years, and then you have to train. It takes so long, but he wants to become a doctor, but he's worried about the time spent because he's only 10 years old. 7 years is like 70% of his life. He doesn't understand what 7 years is. So you tell him, don't worry, when the time comes, after you finish, you haven't even finished primary school. Okay, you finish primary school, you finish secondary school, you finish college. All this time, don't give up on being a doctor. Okay, but don't think that being a doctor is too easy either, because you have to work hard. Then when you get to that stage, then you will understand, because you'll be older, you'll be more mature, you'll be wiser. And 7 years won't seem like 7 years to a 10-year-old now, because by that time you'll be, like in your how old do you go to university to learn to be a doctor, to study to be a doctor? 19, 20 at least, around there? Yeah. So it's something like that. Don't worry too much about it, because that's what you go to the Pure Land to find out. Okay? But it is coming back to say living beings is kind of like one of those things that people think of when they go to the Pure Land. Okay? Okay, another question about the Pure Land is how to, oh no, this is not a Pure Land. Okay, this is another question. Assuming, okay, that you want to be reborn during the time of Maitreya Buddha. So Maitreya Buddha is coming in the future. I don't have the exact time. I believe I have calculated before, although I don't know where I have my calculations. Something like 3 billion years or 300 billion years, something like that. It's a long time from now. That Maitreya Bodhisattva will be reborn to become Maitreya Buddha. So the question is how to be reborn during the time of Maitreya Buddha. Okay, so when he comes, it's a very, very long time into the future. I can try to find out, but offhand, I don't know. Okay, at least like 3 billion years or something like that. It's just a long time. Okay, so when he comes, I'm not sure. And how do you make sure we can be reborn? Okay, one way is to get to the Pure Land. Okay, and if you get to the Pure Land, hopefully by the time Maitreya Bodhisattva gets reborn in the Saha world, you have the ability to come down, and you have control over your birth and death, and you can be reborn during the Buddha's time. Okay, but if not, it doesn't matter, because you're already in the Pure Land. Okay, and in the Pure Land, you have access to Buddhas, so you don't have to worry about it, whether you can be reborn or not. You will know. Okay, at that time, you will know whether you are ready or not. That's the best thing that you should do. But either way, at that time, it won't make any difference to your practice anymore. Okay, because you're firmly on the path. Okay. Another way is for people who are not aware of the Pure Land. What they do is everything they do, you imagine is no longer Pure Land practice, but you substitute it for the Tushita Heaven practice. Why? Because Maitreya Bodhisattva is right now in the Tushita Heaven. Okay. And what's going to happen is that when it's time for, if you want to know what's going to happen when a Buddha is going to be reborn in the Saha world, in Jambudvipa, there's a sutra called the Play in Full. Okay, the Play in Full is a sutra that explains exactly what happens. Basically, the gods from the Tushita Heaven, they come down to earth and they teach people what are known as the Vedas. And included in there is the 32 major hallmarks of a great person. That's why when Buddha Shakyamuni was born, there were already Indian gurus, Indian yogis who were very accomplished in their meditation, and they had read the Vedas, and they saw that the Buddha, the prince, had the 32 hallmarks, and they knew that's how they could predict to the Buddha's father, the king. He said, your son will either be a world, a Buddha, a fully enlightened one, or he will be a world-turning king. a king that unites the entire world, people of the whole world. Why? Because they had the Vedas that they studied from. And these Vedas actually came from the gods in the Tushita heaven who say, okay, the Buddha is going to get born, we must prepare mankind so that when the Buddha is born, they can recognize who the Buddha will be. Okay. Which means you can make vows to be reborn in the Tushita heaven, so that you are there at the time of Maitreya Bodhisattva, and when he makes his decision to come down to earth, you can be part of his entourage to come. Okay, so that's one way of being reborn during the time of the next Buddha. Okay, Melinda has a question. Basically, there's a temple in Malaysia, in Perak, in the limestone caves. I think it's called the Shakyamuni cave temple. And they have been there for 100 years. And recently, because I think the owners changed hands. So what happened is that they are facing the threat of eviction. The new owners don't want the temple there anymore because they I think they want to use they want to what's the word for it, quarry. They want to turn it into a quarry so they can extract the limestone, something like that, okay, for industrial business purposes. So one of the questions is, how should we deal with it as Buddhists? So Melinda's question is specific. She says, if we appeal in a court case, is it considered as fighting? Okay, I actually have some slides here. Hold on, let me find my slide. Let me end this. Okay. Okay, found it. Okay, so what you see on your screen is what we recite at the City of 10,000 Buddhas. I'm not sure in the branches, do we recite that? I know in Malaysia we don't, but in CityTB we do. Before our let's say morning and evening, or just the evening. I don't remember. But okay, before, in every day, this is what we recite in the Buddha Hall. We recite, freezing to death, we do not scheme. Starving to death, we do not beg. Dying of poverty, we ask for nothing. We accord with conditions, but do not change. We do not change and accord with conditions. We adhere firmly to our three great principles. Renounce our lives to do the Buddha's work. We mold our destinies as a basic duty. We rectify our lives to fulfill the Sangha's role. Okay, and then it carries on. It says, encountering specific matters, we understand the principles. Understanding the principles, we apply them to specific matters. We carry on the single pulse of the Patriarch's mind transmission. And then the original one is, ask yourself, do I fight? Am I greedy? But I've changed it to, I ask myself, because when you're reciting, you should be asking yourself. So basically what do you ask yourself? You ask yourself the 6 guidelines that Shufu gave us. It says, do I fight? Am I greedy? Do I seek? Am I selfish? Do I pursue personal advantage? Do I lie? And then for monastics, they recite, do I eat only 1 meal a day? And do I always wear my precept sash? There's a history to why they recite 1 meal a day and wear my precept sash, because originally it wasn't there. It was added later. Maybe that's a story for another day, because we have another question apart from this, and I'm not sure if we have enough time. Then we end with saying, with this form the traditions of the sagely city of 10,000 Buddhas, and no one can change them. And then the Venu will hit the big bell, bong, and then we'll start reciting the morning and evening ceremony. Okay, so this is how it is in the Buddha Hall of the City of 10,000 Buddhas. So Shufu say, fight. Do I fight? Okay, Shufu said before, he said, if you fight, Shufu said, for example, if people insult him, okay, people say bad things about Shufu, whether it's right or wrong. And if you fight with people, Shufu says you're not my disciple. And I have a very interesting story. There's Shufu has a disciple who used to live at CTTB. His name is Bobby Antelek. When I was living at CTTB, I knew Bobby. I wouldn't say very well, but well enough. And his story is that he ran away from home when he was 16 at a very young age. And then he found his way to San Francisco and he met Shufu. So to him, Shufu is like a father figure to him, or more than a father figure. So one of the interesting stories he has that he shared with me, he said one day, so he feels so close to Shufu that when Shufu lectures, he doesn't sit with the rest of the people. He sits next at Shufu's feet. That's what he told me. So he said one day when Shufu was lecturing, he saw Shufu leave the chair, like just fly out from the chair. And that surprised him. And then he realized that at the same time, Shufu was still sitting in the chair. And then he looked around because he could see everyone since he was facing everyone. He was astonished and he looked around and he realized no one else noticed what he saw. Only he noticed it. Yeah, so that's Bobby Antelek. Okay, so Bobby Antelek said something very funny. He said, I know I'm not supposed to fight, but if anyone were to say anything bad about Shufu, Bobby Antelek he's a well-built guy. He in the boys' school he teaches them weightlifting, so he's very muscular. So he said, if anyone were to say anything bad about Shufu, he's going to teach the person the lesson with his fist. He's going to fight, although he knows he's not supposed to. Yeah, he said, I don't care. No one can say anything bad about Shufu. Yeah. Okay, so why do we... so to answer Melinda's question, if you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts, you should protect the Dharma. So there's one precept in the Bodhisattva precepts that say that if you see images of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and this extends to sutras as well, if you see them being neglected, you should rescue them. Okay, if you can, you should rescue them. So meaning as Buddhists, we should protect the Dharma. Okay, but to what extent? Okay, so Melinda is asking, if we appeal in a court case, is it considered as fighting? Well, I guess that depends. It's not for sure. It would be on a case-to-case basis of whether is it fair or not. If it's not fair, for example, if you go and build a temple on land that does not belong to you, okay, and the owner wants to take back the land, and you take it to a court case knowing that you are in the wrong, then I guess that's not fair. But in the case of, I'm not sure about the details of this cave temple, but I believe, because they email me what's going on, I believe that they have been promised many times that they have permission to continue using the land, and based on that promise, they have invested greatly in the temple itself. In that case, then I guess it would be fair, because you are not exploiting anyone, you're not taking advantage of anyone, but it is based on mutual understanding. Okay, so why is it important not to fight in Buddhism? Shufu says, if you fight, you're not his disciple. If we look at, say, religion or the Dharma, is the proof of the Dharma in the sutras, in the books, or do you see it in the people who follow the religion? Okay, right? For example, okay, as another example, say you're looking for a Kung Fu teacher, all right? You want to learn Kung Fu. And then, you find a very impressive looking teacher. He's wearing all the right kung fu clothes. He has the kung fu shoes. He has the long white beard. You know, he had his hair tied up in a bun, and he shows you all the moves, and he's very, very impressive. And then you look at his students, and you know, his students have been following him for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. But the students are not impressive at all. You know, the students kick and fall down at the same time. You know, when they punch, you know, they can't even, you know, break. They can't do anything. Basically, they're not impressive at all. Or you find another teacher. The teacher is just a very normal looking person. You know, doesn't look impressive at all. If you tell anyone he's a kung fu teacher, no one would believe. But then you encounter his students who have been following him for a long time, and his students are all very impressive. They fly here, they fly there, you know, they kick here, they punch there, they can somersault, and they can explain what they're doing. Who would you choose as a teacher? So for us who say that we are Buddhist disciples, and I know a lot of Shufu's disciples are very proud that they are Shufu's disciples. They say that Shufu is lihai, Shufu is very great. But shouldn't Shufu's greatness be reflected in his disciples? Shouldn't the principles of the Dharma, be reflected in the conduct of Buddhists? Right? It doesn't matter what the sutras say. Okay, no, I said that wrongly. No, it doesn't matter what the sutras say. How am I supposed to say this? The people will only understand what Buddhism is through the conduct of Buddhists. That's how you make people understand what Buddhism is. Not what you know, not what you understand, you know, not what you can explain, but through your conduct. That's why we cannot fight in Buddhism. There are other reasons as well. For example, if you walk the Bodhisattva path and if you fight with people, you damage your affinities with them. And in the future, if you want to save them, say when you become a Bodhisattva, you have the wisdom, you want to save them, you cannot because you do not have positive affinities with them. So you become kind of like a useless Bodhisattva, or you just make your life harder, you know, because when you were not a Bodhisattva, you make very selfish decisions or unwise decisions rather than creating wholesome affinities with living beings. So that's the Bodhisattva path. Okay, that's another way to understand not fighting. Okay, so when we fight, we are not doing Buddhism any favors at all. Basically, we are kind of slandering the Dharma. You know, if you call yourself Buddhist and then you show un-Buddhist behavior. So that's one very, very good reason why we should not fight. Okay, we should always be good examples of the teachings. So if you have 5 precepts, you should be a very good example. You should be a better example of Buddhism compared to people who have not taken the precepts yet. If you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts, then you should be reflecting, you should be a role model for all Buddhists to follow. Then the longer you hold the precepts, the better the example you should be. Then when you hold, for example, like the monastic precepts, the longer you hold them, the longer you should embody what the Buddha is teaching us. You should be the role model for people to follow. Okay? So that's why we shouldn't fight. Because if we fight, we are going against the very basic teachings of what we are supposed to believe in. Okay, so there's this story. Okay, I don't remember, I just recalled this story, so I don't remember the specifics. But people were having a protest outside a temple. I don't remember if it was CDTB, because this was maybe in the 60s or the 70s. And this was told to me by, what's his name? He used to work in the front office at CDTB. So anyway, people were protesting, and what did Shifu do? Shifu invited them in. Shifu not just invited them in, Shifu said, oh, it's very hot outside, you poor people are protesting under the sun, the heat. Come in. Shifu made sure they were taken care of. Shifu gave them a place to sit. And I think it was people talking at the time. And Shifu gave them the opportunity to speak. Instead of acting very rowdy outside, acting very rowdy outside the gate, Shifu invited them in, treated them with respect, and gave them the opportunity to speak. And that's how you transform people, not by fighting, but by creating positive affinities. Okay, all right. Any more questions? Okay, Ron has another. Oh, wait, hold on. Before Ron's question, there's another question. Okay, Ron's earlier question was, when you attend a session, like reciting the Buddha's name or going to the Buddha hall, what kind of attitude should one have? I can't really tell you what kind of attitude you should have, but what I can say is that to be mindful of your vows, if you have any vows, to be mindful of your intention. Why are you there in the first place? You may enjoy being there. You may think that it is something you have to do, something good that you have to do, but you may not really understand what it is that you're doing. That's fine. At least you are there. You might want to think about doing it on behalf of someone, and that involves your intention as well as the transference, which in that case, then you may want to have your intention clear even before you go. Like when you're planning to go, when you're maybe leaving your house or making plans that, this Saturday I want to go. Ask yourself, why do you want to go? What can you get from going? Who can you benefit from going? Maybe someone who's sick, you can keep them in your mind, something like that. So transference as a ceremony in the Buddha hall, we do it at the end. Okay, we do it once we're done with everything, then we transfer merit. But if you think about it properly, okay, a sincere form of transfer of merit is even before you go, you're already clear why you want to do it. For example, okay, offering precepts for the deceased. I hope everyone is okay. Let me quickly explain what are precepts for the deceased. Precepts for the deceased is when someone has passed away and you want to help them, you attend a ceremony where you represent the person who is deceased to take the precepts on their behalf. So you stand in for them. It's not you taking the precepts, but you stand in for them, and so that they can accept the precepts. So basically what happens is, because precepts for the deceased are done, is very infrequent, maybe once every year or once every 2 or 3 years. So when it's done, a lot of people want to register. So in that case, what happens is this. When you hear of it, immediately you think of who you can benefit from this. You might think about your parents. You can only do it for one person. So you choose one person carefully. So when you register, you're very aware of who you're doing it for. It might be months ahead. When you book your ticket, you're very aware of who you're doing it for. When you book your accommodation, assuming you're from a different country, you know who you're doing it for. When you come to the ceremony, you're supposed to bring a photograph with you. You're aware who you're doing it for. During the ceremony, you're given instructions to hold that person in your mind, so you're always aware of who you're doing it for. And after the ceremony, you're also aware of who you're doing it for. That should be proper intention. Okay. Can you imagine you go precepts for the deceased, and after it's over, then you start thinking, who who was I supposed to do it for? Oh, my grandfather. Oh, okay, yeah. Then you transfer the merit to your grandfather. Do you think he would be happy? That wouldn't be very sincere, right? So in the ceremony, yes, we transfer merit at the end, okay, but as a practice, it's not an afterthought, literally an afterthought where you think about it after it's over. No, proper intention, whilst you are constantly aware. Okay, so Ron, you might want to, and everyone, that those are things that you can be aware of. And then during the ceremony, if you're reciting a Buddha's name or a Bodhisattva's name, you can be mindful of the qualities of the Buddha or the Bodhisattva if you want, or you can just use it to quiet the mind down, to concentrate the mind. That's fine too. At the very least, you are also planting very good wholesome seeds for yourself. Wholesome seeds that make you like going to the temple, that make you like joining a Fahui, wholesome seeds with the Buddha or the respective Bodhisattva. So all those things, all those karmic seeds will bear fruit in the future, at the very least. Okay, so if you come out of the ceremony and you feel like you're still the same, nothing has transformed, or that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. If you want to transform, maybe look out for the repentance ceremonies, like the Great Compassion Mantra, where if you want to get over something that you have not resolved in the past, and you feel bad about it, or you want to just be a better person, repentance ceremonies are excellent for you to transform yourself. Yeah, look towards the repentance ceremonies. All right. Okay, we have one more question by Ron. Anyone else has any questions? Let's see if anyone else has anything to add or to ask or to clarify. Yes, Mr. Tai. Yes.
First, I want to know about vows. Is it compulsory for all disciples to have vows? And then, like, usually vows are those vows. The example, Venerable Master Hua, they are all very tough vows, or what they call it, vows that is to accomplish. So I'm wondering, like those disciples, normal lay person like us, do we need compulsory to have vows, and then vows are so tough to accomplish? Wondering whether it can be done or not. Thank you, Father.
Okay, yeah, that's an excellent question. Thanks. Okay, so vows, you can think of it as you can think of a vow as a compass. So say you want to walk in a straight line, but which direction do you want to walk? And which means, where do you want to end up? So vows can be two kinds. Okay, where you want to end up, you can have two. One is you can have a short distance from here to there that you can see. The other one is you can't see, but it's a place that you would like to end up in the future, but you don't know how. Okay, so vows serve those kind of purposes. So it could be, say, oh, I vow not to get angry today. Or for someone who's trying to become a vegetarian, say, I vow say if 2 weeks is too difficult, say I want to, I really want to stick to my vegetarian diet, at least for this week. So tonight when I go out for dinner and I see the picture of the fried chicken on the menu, or I see my wife eating fried chicken in front of me, or my children, I'm not going to eat it myself. It can be those vows. It can be a vow like that. A vow is kind of like, it's a wish you want for yourself that you want to achieve. Okay. And then you can have greater vows that you don't really understand how to do it, but how you say, it's a good thing. So you make those vows. For example, like safe living beings, you have no idea. You come to a temple, you are kind of like forced to, because when you join the ceremony, they will say, "I vow to save all living beings," but nobody has any clue how to do that. Those vows eventually will come true, okay? Eventually, but for now, making those vows you are just planting karmic seeds for yourself in the future. So, say for example, someone who is very, very new to Buddhism, they come to the temple and everyone's reciting, "I vow to save all living beings," and they just recite along, "I vow to save all living beings." They have no idea what's going on. Then, let's say 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, because they've been reciting it in the Buddha hall, it's no longer an alien idea to them. They are used to the words. It's not new anymore, but they still don't understand. And then one day they read, say, the Flower Adornment Sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra, and they say, "Oh, the Bodhisattvas makes vow to save all living beings." And because it's not an alien concept anymore, it's easier for them to explore what does that mean. Why? Because 5-10 years they've been reciting, "I vow to save all living beings," just because of that. Or in the next life, when they encounter a vow to save all living beings, they feel attracted to it. They don't know why. They feel comfortable with it. They still don't understand, but they feel comfortable with it. So step by step, it gets you closer. So think of vows as two. One is your short to medium term things that you would like to achieve in your practice as yourself, as you improve yourself, anger, patience, loving kindness, things like that. Joining the sutra lecture on time, things like that. And then the second one is vows that will serve to orient yourself in the path of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, that it doesn't matter if you know how to do it or you don't know how to, you can't achieve it. Those vows are meant to guide you on your journey, because they plant wholesome karmic seeds. All right. So look at it as one is for your future, one is for more the immediate practical things that you can do. But it doesn't mean that you have to do the one like for the far future. You just do what feels right. Yeah. And as you do what feels right, what the vows that you make, say today or tomorrow, and if you continue your practice well, in 5 years' time, the vows that you make may be very different from today's vows, because you have immersed yourself in the practice. And then 10 years, your vows that you make will reflect your level of practice again. Then who knows? I don't know, for everyone it's different, but one day you may say, "Yeah, I do want to save all living beings." And you're working your way towards that. And you understand what it takes. Okay? All right. So Ron, your next question, keep it for next week. Okay. I'm doing that because you have asked many questions. Anyone else with any questions you want to ask that we can address in the future? Yes, no? Okay, I've gone beyond time as usual. I apologize for keeping you all. Okay. Let me end this slideshow. Let me get the transference of merit. And also, if I explain something not well or difficult to understand, please ask again next week. Okay. All right, everyone ready? Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone. Amitabha. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you, 法师。